mean, and Michael Jackson OD'd by drug that was administered
Yeah.
by a physician.
Well, that was weird shit, right?
Yeah, it was.
Imagine the kind of stress that guy was under. He was under so much
couldn't.
stress he had to get anesthetized every night.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anything Michael Jackson did. Once he bought that first giraffe, I was like, you on a whole new level, bro. I don't know any of the emotional content of a guy's life like that.
Joe Rogan has opened up about the extraordinary circumstances surrounding Michael Jackson's struggle with sleep, shedding light on why the pop icon reportedly relied on medical help to rest. Jackson's sleep problems became a major part of the controversy surrounding his final years and his intense efforts to maintain his demanding career. He has discussed the darker side of Michael Jackson's final years, particularly the singer's reliance on powerful medications and the doctors who helped him manage his sleep. Rogan has questioned how someone as famous and wealthy as Jackson could end up in a situation where dangerous drugs became part of his routine.
Like apparently those long-term under sedation times when they got you under anesthesia for a big operation are super fun. Like your body does not like it. When your body comes back, a lot of people suffer from not just from the trauma of the operation itself, but also from the disruptance of your immune system and disrupt your not immune system, your hormone system. Something about going under the knife under that long, it does some wacky shit to you, and it makes people feel really listless and depressed, and it causes all sorts of like a whole cascade of mental issues.
To understand why Rogan keeps landing on this point, it helps to look at what was actually happening behind closed doors years before Jackson's death. This wasn't a sudden spiral. It was a slow, well-documented decline that people close to him tried and failed to stop. Jackson's struggles with medication were well documented. His longtime dermatologist, Dr. Arnold Klein, said Jackson had battled addiction and had used the anesthetic propofol as a sleep aid, despite warnings about its dangers. Rogan has also discussed the bizarre circumstances surrounding Jackson's health and the medical treatment he received, raising questions about how his enormous fame may have given him access to drugs and medical care that ordinary people could never obtain.
Like when you go have surgery, doesn't the anesthesiologist have to they have a person there with you the whole time?
That's not what we're saying though.
No, but when I'm didn't Michael Jackson just get that and they let him sleep? It's dangerous. Like what you're saying is
yeah, that's why he's dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
But sometimes you go to Mexico for surgery, you save $8,000, and there's no anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
It's just a Mexican named Paco that comes in and shoots you a syringe just by looking at you. He's 5'6", maybe 160.
Dude, I've heard of a lot of people go to Mexico to get shit done.
No, they have to.
There's a lot of stem cell stuff down
A
there.
lot of stem cell cancer. They fucking cure you down there.
That access is really the engine of the whole story. Jackson didn't have to go looking for a dealer or a black market source. He could simply hire a personal physician and pay him a 6-figure monthly salary to be on call, day or night, wherever the tour took him. That arrangement is exactly what would later end up in a Los Angeles courtroom, and it's the arrangement Rogan keeps coming back to when he tries to explain how a man surrounded by handlers, doctors, and family could still end up dying alone in a rented bedroom. Moreover, Rogan discussed the conspiracy theory that Joe Jackson chemically castrated Michael Jackson to maintain his high-pitched singing voice. Rogan addressed these rumors on his podcast, pointing to the dark and intense pressures of Jackson's childhood stardom, rather than validating the literal castration claim as the sole root of his adult struggles.
It's a cautionary tale. The Michael Jackson story is like when kids get that famous, no one can handle it. That's what that is.
Yeah.
There's also the weirdness of the doctor saying that he was chemically castrated. His doctor, the same guy that killed him, with the propanol, the guy that put him to sleep with anesthesia, that guy said that when he was young, his father chemically castrated him to preserve his voice.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Rogan and his guests have addressed these extreme pop culture conspiracy theories, evaluating how much weight to give claims about Joe Jackson's harsh parenting and the extreme measures alleged by figures from Jackson's past, rather than attributing Michael's unique voice or lifelong psychological trauma strictly to physical alteration. Rogan noted that Michael's adult eccentricities stemmed heavily from being thrust into intense global fame and isolation at an extremely young age.
When you look at him in comparison to all the other guys in his family, he's really thin, like he has no testosterone.
Yeah,
no
never really thought about
all
that.
The brothers are all big men. They're men. Like you look at Jermaine, they're big men. He's really thin, and he kept that high-pitched voice. Like when you listen to some of his Human Nature, Like, that voice is insane. And then they do it to them when they're really young. They do it to them when they're kids.
No kidding.
Yeah, like your family sells you off to some opera and they slice your balls off and keep you that way forever.
It's that same tension, unimaginable success paired with private suffering that's brought Jackson's story back into the spotlight with the recent biopic. Rogan uses the film as a jumping-off point to walk through just how strange and pressured Jackson's entire life was, starting almost from birth. Joe Rogan has opened up about Michael Jackson and the new biopic Michael, reflecting on the extraordinary life and painful tragedies surrounding one of the most famous entertainers in history. From Jackson's childhood fame and intense family pressures to the controversies, health struggles, and personal battles that followed, Rogan explores the darker side of a life lived under an unimaginable spotlight. The new film focuses heavily on Jackson's rise from a young performer to a global superstar and the experiences that shaped him. But behind the legendary music and performances was a deeply complicated life filled with both incredible success and devastating struggles. Meanwhile, Rogan noted that Jackson seemingly possessed almost no muscle at all and very little body fat. He suggested that Jackson's narrow frame and lack of typical male secondary sexual characteristics could align with someone who lacked normal testosterone levels during pivotal development years.
Michael Jackson's doctor saying that he was chemically castrated.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear that?
No.
This is something that we've talked about before because his voice was so different. And to me, I said a long time ago before his doctor came out and said he was chemically castrated, I said he sounds like a castrato. He sounds like one of those men who were taken as boys in, the 1800s and the 1700s.
So he chose to do it, the doctor's saying?
I don't know. I think the doctor's saying that his father did it to him. I think that was, this is the doctor that killed him, by the way.
Right.
So take that with a grain of salt, right?
The claim traces back largely to Jackson's own former physician, Conrad Murray, who wrote in a memoir published years after Jackson's death that Joe Jackson had pushed the young singer into hormone injections around age 12. A French surgeon later floated a similar theory in the press, pointing to a drug normally used off-label for acne as the possible culprit behind Jackson's unusually high, boyish voice well into adulthood. It's a claim that resurfaces almost every time Jackson's childhood comes up, tying his lifelong physical transformation and his famously delicate, almost frozen-in-time appearance back to something that may have been done to him before he was even a teenager. Moreover, Joe Rogan has explicitly claimed that Michael Jackson's children are not his biological offspring. Rogan's primary argument focuses entirely on the children's racial presentation. He has bluntly stated on the podcast they're not part African American. He frequently contrasts this by pointing out that before Jackson developed vitiligo, he was a dark-skinned black man who closely resembled his brothers and his father, Joe Jackson. Rogan tied this paternity theory directly back to the chemical castration theory. He and his guests joked that if Dr. Conrad Murray's claims were true and Jackson's testosterone production was permanently shut down as a child, it would have naturally rendered him incapable of fathering biological children later in life.
But he was saying that he chemically castrated him to preserve his voice, which, it sounds preposterous until you look at his frame. I mean, he did not have the frame of a person who
But
had
then he had kids.
testosterone.
Is he also
didn't have
saying
kids. He did
he's
not
saying
have
those kids are not his
They're
kids?
not his kids.
Right.
They're definitely not his kids.
I mean, this is what we were talking about earlier, about how it's easy to get the facts to
Sure.
fit a theory,
Right, but those kids are not his kids. Those are the whitest kids you're ever going to look at.
Yeah.
They're really white.
From the claims about his childhood, the conversation shifts to the sheer size of what Jackson became as an adult, because none of the later tragedy makes sense without understanding just how enormous his celebrity really was. Rogan and comedian Brian Simpson try to put it in perspective for an audience that may only know Jackson through headlines and documentaries.
Then there was one guy that was the guy.
And he wasn't just, he was huge from the time he was like 5 years old until the day he died. He could literally have people passing out in Japan.
Falling up, they couldn't stand being near him. They'd freak out.
That's why it's like the world is just set up differently where there could not be another Michael Jackson.
No, it's not. It's a different world, but there's a few guys that broke through, and it's just like they ran to the top of Everest with no oxygen, and there was just no support system for them.
Yeah.
Nobody had ever been there before, so nobody even knew like this could be a thing. You had Elvis, who got there and he died, and then you have Michael Jackson.
Joe Rogan and Brian Simpson discuss just how enormous Michael Jackson's fame really was, going beyond his music to examine the extraordinary level of worldwide attention surrounding the king of pop. Jackson wasn't simply a successful musician, he became a global phenomenon whose name, appearance, performances, and personal life were recognized by millions around the world. Rogan and Simpson reflect on the almost unimaginable scale of Jackson's celebrity and what it meant to live under that level of fame. That level of global recognition is exactly what made Jackson's private struggles so hard to escape. There was nowhere to quietly fall apart, no way to disappear and get help without the entire world watching. Their conversation offers a fascinating look at why Michael Jackson became such a unique cultural figure, and why, even years after his death, his influence and popularity remain difficult to match.
Nobody else has ever really gotten that big.
Oh, the Beatles?
The Beatles? Yeah, I guess the Beatles did. But Michael Jackson was an individual.
Yeah.
When you see the silhouette of him with the top hat, and when the lights would go on, bro, people would go insane.
Yeah.
And he was dancing and moving. When you see that, show me that thing when you see him when he comes out on stage.
People forget that at that Super Bowl, that one where he just stood there for the first like 2 minutes.
Yeah, dude, he was something really unusual.
With that context in place, a man who'd been famous since childhood and was never really allowed to be ordinary, the story circles back to the thing that started it all. Jackson simply couldn't sleep. As his final tour approached, people who worked closely with him say the problem had become impossible to ignore. Michael Jackson reportedly struggled severely with insomnia and became dependent on medication to get the sleep he desperately needed. According to former bodyguard Matt Fitties, concerns grew over the amount of prescription medication around Jackson. While Fitties was a young bodyguard in his early 20s, Jackson sent him through another American bodyguard to a pharmacy in London to buy Nitol.
It's also been said that Michael, he had trouble sleeping.
Yeah, well, the time where I really realised that things were not right and the wrong people were around him, and I got to plead this, that bear in mind, I am in my early 20s for the haters start jumping on me to allow this to happen, right? I was probably 22, 23, maybe. I was just a kid. I got a 22-year-old daughter now, and I look at her and I think, gosh, she had all the houses I had and the big business and this kind of pressure. I wouldn't want her to live the life that I have between 18 and 22. So for me to say to Michael, no, I'm not going here to get you this, would be hard. So he sent me via another American bodyguard to go to a pharmacy to get a, I guess it's like a cough syrup. It was called Nitol, and it had some kind of antihistamine in it.
Jackson specifically wanted 2 bottles of the over-the-counter nighttime medicine. Because the first pharmacy refused to sell him 2 bottles at once, Fitties had to buy other items like toothpaste and then walk to a separate pharmacy to secure the second bottle. Upon returning to the hotel room, Fitties was horrified when Jackson immediately downed both bottles of the syrup.
And he wanted 2 bottles of it. They wouldn't sell me 2 bottles of it. And he wants some toothpaste and a few other things as well, okay? So I had to get the shop for him. So I went out and shop. He can't do that for himself, obviously. This was in London. So I got him a bottle of Nitol. I got him his toothpaste that he wanted, his toothbrushes and so on. And then I went to another pharmacy and I got another bottle of Nitol. It's cough, I think it was like cough syrup medicine, which you take at night and it helps you sleep. I get to his hotel room and it horrified me because he drunk him. He downed him, boom, 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 and then he got another one, downed it. I was like, whoa, I think you should just take 2 5 ml, teaspoons of that, Mike. So now I have to have it, or I won't sleep, and I've got this important meeting in the morning, I've got people flying in, and it didn't work. He drank 2 bottles of it and he was still wide awake 2 hours later. He stayed up all night and he met these German promoters about a book in his pajamas and dressing gown. And I said to him, have you slept? He goes, no, I didn't manage to sleep. So, wow. And I got concerned at that point. That's the first time I called the friends around him. Listen, I saw Michael last night. He drank 2 bottles of Nitol in front of me. That's not right, surely. But no one was willing to say anything because the doctor was there. And when the doctor flew in, then the doctor had a higher level of medication Yeah, I didn't know what the hell he was giving him.
The Nitol incident was the first time Fiddies grew deeply concerned and raised alarms with Jackson's inner circle. However, no one in the entourage was willing to speak up or intervene because Jackson's personal doctors were around, and those medical professionals had access to a much higher level of prescription medication.
And he was crying in the lift and said, "I'm so sorry you got injured, Matt. I'm going to send my doctor to you." And I was in another room with Uri Geller, actually, and then the doctor comes in. He says, "Oh, Mike says, I need to come and see you. You've hurt your arm?" He goes, "Yeah, I've my head." He goes, "Oh, you've torn some tendons." He said, "I can fix that." And he started drawing a syringe. And Uri Geller said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm just going to inject him with Demerol." I said, "No, you're not giving Matt Demerol. Go away. No way. That's not meant for this. Paracetamol, minor painkillers is fine. Matt, you're not having that injection." I didn't want the injection. I was scared of needles, you know. The guy was going to inject me with this. Now I know it's called, in England it's called pethidine. They use for women in labour. In America it's called Demerol. He got hooked on that. It was very well known. He'd go see Arnie Klein in the daytime, be on a drip of Demerol, and then Conrad Murray thought he was treating him for insomnia, which was he was treating him for withdrawal from Demerol overuse. But this doctor was injecting. So at that time, I realised that this doctor, they were giving him stuff they shouldn't be giving him to help him sleep. But we managed to get rid of that guy. Michael nearly died on us in 2003 in the States, in America. And unknown to me, but one of the entourage is very clever. So in America, I understand if you're a doctor in one state, doesn't mean necessarily you can administer in another state. You need a license, there's different laws. And he administered this medication to Michael Jackson, and Michael was barely breathing, and Paris, his daughter, brought it to our attention. And they ran to him, revived him, and he didn't want paramedics to come because it'd be worldwide news. And we managed to say to that doctor, if we ever see you with Michael ever again, if you ever call Michael ever again, we will tell the authorities in the States what you did, you'll lose your license, you'll go to jail. We never heard from that doctor ever again.
Jackson's final years became even more troubling as doctors administered powerful sedatives to treat his insomnia. His physician, Conrad Murray, ultimately gave him propofol, a hospital-grade anesthetic that is not intended to be used as an ordinary sleep medication. Jackson's death was later attributed to acute propofol intoxication, and Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Long before any of this played out in court, the people closest to Jackson could already see the warning signs. His own sister has since spoken publicly about just how far the family tried to go to reach him. Janet Jackson revealed that the Jackson family staged several interventions because they were deeply concerned about Michael's prescription drug use. She explained that these attempts came from a place of love and concern, but they were ultimately unsuccessful. According to Janet, Michael understood that his family was trying to help him, although she suggested that he may have been in denial about the seriousness of the situation. The revelations offered a rare glimpse into the private struggles taking place behind the scenes, while Michael was dealing with immense pressure and personal challenges.
I've seen it a lot, and I've always tried to help.
Was there a time as a family that you thought, we need to do something here? Did you do anything?
Of course. That's what you do. Those are the things that you do when you love someone. You can't just let them continue on that way. And we did a few times. We weren't very successful.
How did he react to the interventions that you all conducted?
How do I say this? Understood that it was out of love because of caring. But when it's something like that, people can tend to be in denial.
Is Michael in denial?
I wish he could answer this question for you and not me. I felt that he was in denial.
Mm-hmm. But you also felt you could love somebody, you can bring them right up to that point.
You can't make them drink the water. It's something that you can't do for them.
Janet wasn't the only sibling to speak out. Jermaine Jackson gave his own account of what the family knew, and just as importantly, what they didn't know until it was too late. Jermaine Jackson opened up to Piers Morgan about Michael Jackson's long struggle with sleep and his use of prescription medication. He explained that the family knew Michael was taking drugs for pain and to help him sleep, but they were not aware that he was being given propofol. Jermaine pushed back against the idea that Michael was simply an addict, saying his brother was dealing with severe insomnia and trusted the doctors who administered his medication.
Know how long he'd been given propofol?
Well, see, with This Is It, there was a lot of footage that was taken out that no one saw, and because that was the edit before the edit. And it's just there's so much went on, so much went on.
And is that footage damaging? I mean, do you see a guy, in a bit of a daze, a bit of a zombie? I mean, what is the stuff we didn't see?
Well, things that we've noticed, and this is why the defense is going to try to paint my brother out to be a drug addict, and he was very dependent on drugs, and it's not true, because how can someone be dependent on drugs? It's just 2008, he was dancing 4 hours a day, and he had a 5-year plan of starting a new life.
He described how Michael could struggle to sleep after performing, with the adrenaline from his intense career making it difficult to simply switch off. But the situation became increasingly dangerous. Jermaine said the family knew about prescription drugs for sleep and pain, while the use of propofol was something they only learned about later. The interview revealed just how serious Michael's sleep problems had become and how medication had become intertwined with his desperate search for rest.
If Michael was getting this stuff over a regular period of time, he could still be performing perfectly well. But as you say, underneath it, the damage would be pretty intensive, I would say.
But that's the question. Michael has always had an anesthesiologist around him when he was taking things.
Someone who knew.
Whether I knew whether
someone
or not,
who knew about the process of knocking somebody out for the purposes of sleep.
Yeah, plus he's lived all this time doing Demerol and sleeping pills and also pain pills, but the symptoms from propofol, it's like no one knew that he was, well, the public didn't know that he was complaining about his body, one side being an ice cube, another side being very warm.
Make sure to check out our other videos on the screen.